I saved her life, but she didn't know I was supposed to kill her. Part 2. Monday morning, Marco sat across from Ralph in the back office. He'd been rehearsing this for 3 days, had the arguments lined up, had precedents ready, had talked to his Uncle Sal twice to make sure the tradition still held weight with the old guard. The marriage alliance could work. It had to work. Ralph leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Run it by me again." Marco kept his voice steady. "Marriage alliance, old tradition. If I marry her, she becomes Coppola family through me. Protected, not leverage. Valentino can't touch her without starting a war. We can't use her without breaking our own alliance. And you want to marry Valentino's daughter. I want to solve the problem without starting a war we don't need." Ralph studied him. "You're in love with her?" Not a question. Marco didn't deny it. "Yeah." "And you think marrying her fixes this?" "I think it's the only play that keeps everyone alive and doesn't put us at war with Valentino." Ralph was quiet for a long moment, then, "No." Marco's jaw tightened. "Ralph." I said no. Ralph leaned forward. "You want to marry this girl? Fine, do it on your own time. But we're not using a marriage alliance to protect Valentino's daughter. We grab her, we use her, we get what we need, then we're done. That starts a war." "Maybe, maybe not. Valentino's been quiet for years. Maybe he doesn't want the fight either." "You willing to bet on that?" "I'm willing to use the leverage we have." Ralph's eyes were hard. "You got a week, Marco, maybe 2. Then I need her brought in. That's the order." Marco stood. "I need more time." "You don't have it." "Ralph, 1 week. Figure out how to do your job or I'll find someone who can." Marco left without another word. By Monday afternoon, Sofia had stopped responding to his texts. "Marco. Morning. Still on for dinner Friday?" Beau's been asking about Cody all weekend. Hours passed, nothing. Then finally, "Swamped at work this week. Can we rain check?" Marco stared at the message. Something was wrong. Sofia didn't cancel plans, and "swamped at work" felt like an excuse, not a reason. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just busy. I'll call you soon." She wouldn't call. Marco knew deflection when he saw it. He tried not to panic. Maybe she really was busy. Maybe he was reading too much into 2 text messages, but his gut said otherwise. Tuesday, Jessica asked about Sofia at breakfast. "Is Dr. West coming over this weekend?" "I don't know, kiddo. She's busy with work." "She's always busy with work. She still comes over." "Not this week." Jessica studied him. "Did you guys have a fight?" "No, she's just swamped." "Uh-huh." Jessica didn't believe him. "Beau's gonna be sad. He wanted to show her Spike's new hide." "I know." By Tuesday afternoon, Marco's phone was full of unanswered messages. "Marco, haven't heard from you. Just checking in." Read, no response. "Marco, did I do something wrong?" Read, no response. "Marco, Sofia, you're worrying me. Please call." Read, no response. "Marco, the kids are asking about you." Nothing. Marco sat in his truck outside the Scottsdale site and tried to think. Sofia was pulling away, fast, complete shutdown. That didn't happen without a reason. Had she found out? Did she know who he was? No. If she knew, she'd have run, changed her number, disappeared. She wouldn't be reading his texts and not responding. She'd be gone. So what was it? Wednesday morning, Marco called, straight to voicemail. He tried again an hour later. Voicemail. Again that evening. Voicemail. She was screening him, actively avoiding his calls. Marco left a message on the 3rd try. "Sofia, I don't know what's going on, but I'm worried. If I did something, just tell me. We can talk about it. Call me back." She didn't. "Wednesday night," Beau asked when Sofia was coming over. "I don't know, buddy." "But she always comes over on weekends." "She's busy right now." "With what?" "Work." That's dumb. She should come see Spike instead. I know. Can we go see her? Not right now. Bo's face fell. Did she stop liking us? Marco's chest felt tight. No, she still likes you. She's just busy. You said that already. I know. Later, after Bo was asleep, Jessica found Marco in the kitchen. What's really going on with Sofia? Marco looked at his daughter. 15 years old. Too smart for her own good. I don't know. Did she break up with you? I don't think so, but something's wrong and she won't talk to me. Jessica was quiet for a moment. Do you love her? The question caught him off guard. Yeah, I do. Then don't give up. Jessica squeezed his arm. She's probably just scared. People do dumb things when they're scared. Marco wished it were that simple. Thursday, the Scottsdale project passed inspection. The Tempe renovation came in under budget. Louie called with good news about the new Mesa contract. They'd won the bid, start date in 2 weeks. Everything on the construction side was running perfectly. Marco had never hated that more. He wanted something to go wrong, wanted a crisis he could solve, a foundation issue, a contractor dispute, anything that would let him focus on a problem that had an actual solution. Instead, his professional life was smooth, while everything personal was falling apart. Ralph kept texting, status. Marco kept deflecting, working on it. Ralph, time's running out. I know. Ralph, 3 days, that's it. Sofia kept not responding. 7 voicemails now, dozens of texts, all read, none answered. The kids kept asking questions Marco couldn't answer, and the only thing that actually mattered, keeping Sofia alive, keeping the family from forcing his hand, keeping both worlds from colliding, was spinning further out of his control. Thursday night, Marco tried one more time. Marco, I don't know what's going on, but I'm worried. If you need space, just tell me. I'll give it to you, but please let me know you're okay. Hours passed, and then, I'm fine, just need to focus on work right now. Marco, okay, I'm here when you're ready to talk. That was it. The conversation ended. Marco sat in his dark living room, phone in hand, and tried to figure out what he'd missed. Sofia was pulling away. Ralph was running out of patience. The marriage alliance was dead before it started, and Marco had no idea how to fix any of it. Friday afternoon, Marco called the hospital. He'd been trying Sofia's cell all day, voicemail every time. So he called Phoenix Children's Hospital, asked to be transferred to Dr. Wes. I'm sorry, Dr. Wes isn't available, the receptionist said. Can I transfer you to another physician? When will she be back? I don't have that information, sir. Would you like to leave a message? No, thanks. Marco hung up, not available, no timeline. The receptionist's tone had been carefully neutral, the kind of neutral that meant she'd been told not to give details. That wasn't normal. Sofia worked predictable shifts. If she were just busy, they'd say she was with a patient. If she were off that day, they'd offer to take a message. Not available with no information meant something else. Something was very wrong. Marco drove to her apartment, parked in the lot, waited. He knew this might be a mistake, knew showing up uninvited could make things worse. But sitting at home doing nothing while Sofia shut him out completely wasn't an option. An hour passed, then 2. Finally, her car pulled in. Sofia parked 3 spaces away, sat there for a moment before getting out. When she did, Marco straightened. Even from here, he could see how exhausted she looked. Dark circles under her eyes. Weight loss. She moved like someone who hadn't slept in days. Sofia. He took a step toward her, then stopped. She looked like a spooked animal. What's going on? You haven't answered my calls all week. You're avoiding me. Did I do something? Her face was pale. I've just been busy. Busy? The word came out harsher than he meant it to. Sofia, come on, talk to me. There's nothing to talk about. Bullshit. Marco ran his hand through his hair. A week ago, everything was fine. Better than fine. And now you won't answer my calls? Won't see me? Something happened. Just tell me what it is. She wouldn't look at him. I need some space. The words hit like a fist. Space, Marco repeated. Yeah. From me? From us? From... He stopped, forced himself to breathe. Sofia, if this is moving too fast, if I pushed... You didn't push. Then what is it? She finally looked at him. Her eyes were red, exhausted, guarded. I just need time to think, she said. Marco stared at her, tried to read what was happening behind those eyes, tried to understand what had changed between last Friday, when she'd fallen asleep in his arms, and now. His jaw was tight. His hands had curled into fists without him meaning to. He forced them open. Okay, he said quietly. Okay, if you need space, I'll give you space, but Sofia... He took a step closer. She didn't back away, but he could see the effort it took. Whatever this is, we can work through it. Just don't shut me out. She didn't respond. Marco waited. Gave her time to say something, anything. She didn't. Finally, he nodded once and walked back to his truck. He sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, watching her standing there. Then he drove home. Monday morning, 9:47 a.m. Marco's phone buzzed. Ralph's name flashed across the screen. He answered. Yeah. Time's up. Ralph's voice was flat, final. Bring her in, today. You got until noon. Marco's hand tightened on the phone. I need more time. You don't have it. I've been patient, Marco. Gave you enough time to work whatever this is out of your system, but we need to move. Valentino's people are getting restless. They know we found her. If we don't grab her first, they will. I'm working on something. I don't care what you're working on. Bring her in by noon or I'm sending Carmine. Carmine, the family's other enforcer, the one who didn't ask questions. Didn't hesitate, didn't care who got hurt as long as the job got done. Ralph, noon, Marco, that's it. After that, it's out of my hands. The line went dead. Marco sat in his truck outside the Scottsdale site, staring at nothing. 2 hours. He had 2 hours to figure this out. The marriage alliance could work. Marco knew it could work. The tradition was solid. The precedent was there, but Ralph had said no. And Ralph wasn't going to change his mind just because Marco asked nicely. Marco needed leverage, needed to make the marriage alliance worth more to Ralph than using Sofia as a hostage. He'd been wrestling with this for weeks, ever since Ralph rejected the idea. Ever since Sofia started avoiding him. Ever since the walls started closing in from every direction. Last night had been the worst. Lying awake at 3 a.m., his mind circling the same problem over and over, knowing he was missing something but unable to see what. He'd started writing it down around 4, pulled out a notebook and just started putting everything on paper. What everyone wanted, what everyone needed, what everyone was willing to trade. By dawn, something had started to crystallize. Now, sitting in his truck at 9:47 a.m. with Ralph's ultimatum ringing in his ears, Marco pulled out that notebook, looked at what he'd written through the night. The pieces were there. He just needed to put them together. What does everyone want? Sofia, safety, freedom. Not to go back to her father's world, and that was easy. The marriage gave her that. Protected her through family alliance, kept Valentino from forcing her back home, kept the Coppolas from using her. Me, Sofia alive, Sofia safe, Sofia not hating me forever, also solved by the marriage, if he could make it work. Ralph, this was the problem. What did Ralph want badly enough to accept the marriage instead of the grab? Marco stared at the page. Ralph had been complaining for years about East Coast interference. The Valentino family controlled shipping routes through New York and New Jersey, had connections to unions the Coppolas couldn't touch. Every time Ralph tried to expand operations east, he hit a wall. Ralph wants East Coast access, shipping routes, union connections, territory expansion without a war. Marco wrote it down, underlined it. That was something. That was negotiable. If Valentino wanted his daughter safe, he might be willing to trade access for protection. But what did Valentino want from the Coppolas? Marco thought. Tried to remember every conversation he'd had with Ralph about East Coast operations. Every complaint. Every frustration. Valentino controlled the eastern seaboard, but he'd been trying to expand west for years. Vegas, LA, Phoenix, kept hitting resistance from established families. The Coppolas had territory, had connections, had infrastructure Valentino couldn't replicate. Valentino wants West Coast expansion, access to Vegas operations, Arizona territory, California connections. Marco wrote faster now. This could work, this could actually work. Marriage alliance. Sofia marries into Coppola family, protected, not leverage. In exchange, Valentino gives Coppola's access to East Coast shipping, unions, territory. Coppola's give Valentino access to West Coast operations, Vegas connections, Arizona territory. Both families get expansion without war. Sofia stays safe, stays free. It was clean, balanced. Both sides got what they wanted without bloodshed. Marco checked the time, 10:23 a.m. He had an hour and 37 minutes. He needed to call Ralph, pitch this properly. Make him see that the marriage was worth more than a hostage situation that would start a war. Marco reached for his phone. It rang. Captain Delgado. Marco answered. Yeah, got a situation. Delgado's voice was tight. Dr. Sofia West just walked into my station. Says she needs protection from the Coppola family. Says she knows you're an enforcer. Wants me to arrest you. Marco's blood went cold. Don't touch her. I'm not going to touch her, you idiot. I'm calling you. But I got maybe 10 minutes before she figures out I'm stalling. What do you want me to do? Relief hit Marco so hard he had to close his eyes. She was safe. She was alive. She hadn't run. She'd gone to the police. Stupid, dangerous, but alive. Keep her there, Marco said. I'm 20 minutes out. Marco, 20 minutes. Don't let anyone else touch her. He hung up, started the truck. His hands were shaking. Sofia knew. She knew who he was. Had known for at least a week, probably longer. That's why she'd been avoiding him. That's why she'd shut him out. She knew, and she'd gone to the police instead of running, which meant she was desperate, terrified, out of options. Marco drove faster than he should have, ran 2 red lights, made it to the station in 15 minutes. He walked into Delgado's office and saw her. Sofia, sitting in a hard plastic chair, face pale, eyes red, looking at him like he was a monster. Something in Marco's chest cracked. Thanks for the call, Captain, he said, kept his voice steady, professional. Sofia shot up from her chair. No, I'm not going with you. Sofia. Don't. She backed toward the wall. Her hands were shaking. You've been lying to me this whole time. Everything. I know you're scared. Scared? Her laugh was broken. I trusted you. I let you into my life, into my home. Her voice cracked. God, I'm such an idiot. Each word hit like a fist. Marco forced himself to stay calm, stay controlled. You're going to hand me over to them. Her eyes were wild, terrified. That's what this was, right? The whole thing. Get close to me, make me trust you, then grab me when the order came. I'm not going to hurt you. Marco kept his hands visible, non-threatening. But you can't stay here, you can't go to the police. If the captain had called anyone else, Sofia, anyone else would have grabbed you already. You'd be in a car headed to one of the Coppola's holding locations right now. Delgado cleared his throat. Ma'am, I'd suggest you go with him, for your own safety. Sofia's face went even paler. She looked at Marco. then back at Delgado. "You're on their payroll," she said flatly. Delgado didn't answer. "Please," Marco said quietly. "Let me explain. Just come with me. I'll tell you everything." "Why should I believe anything you say?" "Because if I wanted to hurt you, I'd have done it already. Because I've had 2 weeks to hand you over and I haven't. Because..." His jaw clenched. "Because I'm trying to keep you alive." He watched her process that, watched the fear fight with logic. The seconds they didn't have stretched into what felt like hours. Delgado looked at Marco. "Man, I don't have time for this." Then he turned toward Sofia. "Ma'am, you need to leave now, or I'll be forced to make another phone call. And I guarantee you won't like that one." Marco gave Delgado a knowing look, then turned to Sofia. "I promise I won't hurt you, but we have to go now." Sofia looked between them, trapped, terrified. Delgado pulled out his cell phone. She flinched. He started to dial. "Fine." Her voice came out hoarse, broken. Marco exhaled. She walked toward him. When she reached him, their eyes met. Just for a second. He saw something he'd never wanted to see on anyone's face, especially not hers. Betrayal. And it brought him more pain than he'd expected. She walked past him into the hallway. Marco gave the captain a knowing nod as he followed her out. The truck smelled like leather and cedar air freshener. Sofia pressed herself against the passenger door as far from Marco as she could get. Marco's hands were steady on the wheel. His face was calm, controlled. Inside, his mind was racing. He checked the rearview mirror. Again, no one following. Yet. Ralph's deadline, noon. It was 11:15 now. He had 45 minutes before Carmine got the call. Before he'd left the station, Marco had texted Lucia. "Take the kids, don't ask questions, we'll explain later." Her response had come immediately. Done. Be safe. He would keep her posted when he could, if he could. Right now, he needed to focus on Sofia, on keeping her calm, on getting her to the safe house before anyone realized he'd gone rogue. Marco drove in silence for 10 minutes, watching the mirrors, calculating routes, making sure no one was tailing them. Sofia hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, just stared out the window like she was carved from stone. He'd rather have her hate him than have her dead. The thought settled in his chest, heavy but true. "I'm not going to hurt you," Marco said finally. She didn't respond. Marco's jaw tightened. "I know you don't believe me. I know you think everything about the last 4 months was fake." His hands tightened on the steering wheel. "But it wasn't." "You're an enforcer," her voice came out flat, dead. "You work for the Coppola family. You've been lying to me from the beginning." Each word hit like a knife. "Yeah, I have. No point denying it now. The Coppolas figured out who you were about 2 weeks ago. Someone recognized you from a photo, some hospital charity event that got posted online. You were in the background, but it was enough. They ran facial recognition, dug into your background, found out you were Dominic Valentino's daughter, living under your mother's maiden name in Phoenix." Marco checked the mirror again. Still clear. Sofia's hands were pressed between her knees. 2 weeks. "Yeah. My boss called me in, told me they'd found Valentino's daughter, showed me your photo, gave me the order to grab you and bring you back to Vegas." "So you realized it was me and decided to play along until the timing was right?" The accusation in her voice made his chest tight. "No." Marco's voice went hard. "I didn't know it was you, not at first. The photo they showed me, you looked different. Your hair was up, you were in scrubs, the angle was wrong. I didn't make the connection until I got home that night and really looked at it." He paused, his jaw clenched. "And then I realized the woman my boss wanted me to kidnap was the woman I'd been falling in love with for 3.5 months. Don't. Her voice cracked. Don't say that. It's true. Jessica's appendicitis was real. Meeting you was real. Everything before that order came, that was real. She was so close, 3 feet away, might as well be miles. You lied to me about who you were. And you lied to me about who you were. The words came out sharper than he meant them to. You told me your family was complicated, but no one would show up. You lied about your name, about your past, about everything. Sofia flinched. Marco hated himself for pushing. But she needed to understand. They'd both been lying. They'd both been hiding. I had to, she whispered. So did I. They drove in silence for another mile. Marco checked the mirror, checked the time, 11:45, 15 minutes. Where are we going? Sofia asked finally. Safe house, about an hour outside Phoenix. It's off the books. Nobody knows about it. For how long? However long it takes. And then what? Marco's jaw worked. He stared straight ahead at the road, felt the weight of what he needed to say. I can't betray my capo. That's not something I can do. But one way or another, I'll work something out. It wasn't the whole truth, but it was all he could give her right now. They drove in silence. Marco's mind wouldn't stop. Ralph would be calling soon. Probably already had. Marco's phone was off, sitting in the cup holder between them like a grenade. When he turned it back on, there would be messages, threats, orders. Carmine would be mobilized, maybe already was. But Carmine didn't know about the safe house, neither did Ralph. Nobody in the family did. He'd kept it that way for situations exactly like this when he needed to disappear someone without questions. Marco had time now. Time to pressure Ralph, to force both families to the table, to make them see that the marriage alliance was the only solution that didn't end in war. Ralph had refused to give him time. So Marco had taken it. Sofia's freedom wasn't negotiable. Marco would make Ralph understand that, would make both families understand that. But first he had to keep her here, keep her safe, keep her away from both sides long enough to force a resolution. His resolution. He checked the mirror again, still clear. Marco's voice broke the silence. I'm sorry. Sofia didn't look at him. For which part? All of it. For lying. For not telling you what I really did. For... He stopped. For putting you in this position. I put myself in this position. The words came out bitter. I'm the one who ran. I'm the one who thought I could just disappear and no one would ever find me. I'm the one who... Her voice caught. I should have been more careful. Something in Marco's chest cracked. You were careful. You stayed hidden for 12 years. That's not nothing. It wasn't enough. It was one photo, Sofia, one background shot in a crowd. You couldn't have predicted that. She didn't respond. Marco wanted to reach for her. Wanted to pull the truck over and make her look at him. Make her understand that he was trying to save her, not hurt her. But she wouldn't believe him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. They continued to drive in silence. The safe house appeared in the distance. Small, isolated, surrounded by nothing but scrub and emptiness. Marco slowed the truck, turned onto the dirt road that led away from the highway. What happens now? Sofia asked as he parked. Now you stay here. I make some calls. Start working on getting us out of this. He killed the engine. The silence was deafening. Marco's chest felt tight. Sofia was here, safe, alive, hating him, but alive. He'd take it. He got out of the truck, walked around to her side, and opened the door. Sofia stepped out into the desert heat. Marco unlocked the door to the safe house. The lock clicked. Heavy. Final. Sofia walked inside without looking at him. The door closed behind them. Marco stood there for a moment, his hand still on the doorknob, trying to steady his breathing. She was alive. She was safe. She was here. Marco pulled out his phone, turned it on. 17 missed calls from Ralph, 8 voicemails, 12 texts, each one angrier than the last. Marco deleted them all without reading. He texted his sister. Marco, change of plans, take the kids to Disney like we planned. I won't be joining you this time. He waited, watched the 3 dots appear. Lucia, when do we leave? Tomorrow morning, early. Lucia, how long? 2 weeks, maybe 3. The dots appeared again, disappeared, appeared. Lucia, okay, that was it. No questions, no arguments. Lucia knew the drill. She was part of the family, not in the business, but close enough to understand when Marco needed her to disappear for a while, when things were complicated. They did this trip every summer anyway. Bo and Jessica loved it. Marco usually went with them. This year, he'd have to miss it. Marco, keep them safe. Lucia, always. You be safe too. I will. He hesitated, then added, if anyone asks where I am, you don't know. You haven't heard from me. Lucia, understood. Marco deleted the conversation and pocketed his phone. The safe house was small, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that opened into a living room with a couch that had seen better days, and a coffee table with water rings from years of use. The windows had bars. The door had 3 locks. It smelled like dust and disuse and the faint chemical scent of whatever cleaner had been used the last time he'd stayed there. Marco moved through the space on autopilot, flipping light switches, checking locks, making sure everything was secure. Sofia stood in the middle of the living room, arms wrapped around herself, looking lost. You can take the bedroom, Marco said. The overhead fixture buzzed to life, fluorescent, harsh. Bathroom's attached. There's clean sheets in the closet. Where will you sleep? Couch. Sofia looked at the couch. It was short, worn. Marco was over 6 feet tall. That's not going to work, she said. I'll make it work. Marco. Sofia, just take the bedroom. His voice came out tired, flat. Please. She didn't argue, just turned and walked toward the bedroom. The door closed behind her. Marco stood there for a moment listening. The quiet sounds of her moving around, the creak of the bed, then silence. He pulled out his phone, regular phone. Still had signal out here, barely. Not for long though, he needed to ditch both phones before Ralph could trace them. He pulled the battery from the phone and set both pieces on the counter. His other phone, the encrypted one, got the same treatment. Battery out, SIM card removed. Both phones were now useless, untraceable. Marco felt the weight of being truly off the grid settle over him. No contact with the outside world except the satellite phone locked in the safe under the kitchen sink. He opened the cabinet, pulled out the safe, keyed in the combination. The satellite phone sat inside along with a handgun, $3,000 in cash, and a fake ID he'd never used. Marco took the phone, left everything else. He needed to make this call before he lost his nerve. Marco stepped outside. The desert air was hot, dry. The safe house sat in the middle of nowhere, scrub brush and rocky soil stretching in every direction. He dialed Ralph's number. It rang twice. Where the hell are you? Ralph's voice was ice cold, furious. Somewhere safe. Safe, safe, Ralph's voice went up. I gave you until noon, Marco. It's past 2. Do you have any idea what you've done? Carmine's been tearing Phoenix apart looking for you. Call him off. Call him off? You disobeyed a direct order. You took the girl and disappeared. Yes, she's secure. I don't care if she's secure. I told you to bring her in. Ralph's breathing was harsh, ragged. You're really forcing my hand here, Marco. You better crawl out of whatever hole you're in and bring her to me now. Marco kept his voice level. That starts a war with Valentino. I don't care. And the marriage alliance can work if you just... I don't want to hear about this marriage alliance again, Marco. Ralph's voice went deadly quiet, controlled rage. I already said no. The answer is still no. Now you've got two choices. Bring her in, or I send Carmine to find you both. Marco's jaw tightened. He stared out at the empty desert. Ralph. Now, Marco. The line went dead. Marco stood there, satellite phone in his hand, staring at nothing. He'd expected this. Ralph always got like this when someone pushed back. Loud, unreasonable, unwilling to listen. But Marco had worked with him long enough to know how it went. Ralph needed time to cool off, time to think, time to realize that Marco had put him in a position where the marriage alliance was the cleanest solution. A couple of days. That's all Marco needed to give him. Then he'd call back and Ralph would be ready to listen. Until then, Marco would wait. The first week was hell. Sofia barely spoke to him. Stayed in her room most of the time, came out for coffee, for food, then disappeared again. Her face was pale, exhausted. She looked at him like he was a stranger, like he was the enemy. Marco gave her space, made coffee, made food, left the satellite phone available when she needed it, didn't push, but every day of her silence felt like another nail in the coffin of whatever they'd had. He'd destroyed it, destroyed them, all to keep her alive. Worth it, he told himself. Even if she hated him forever, at least she'd be alive to hate him. Marco spent his days waiting. Day 3, he called Ralph again, laid out the full plan, the marriage alliance, the territory trade, what the Coppolas wanted from Valentino's East Coast operations, what they'd give him in return for West Coast access, the benefits for both families. Ralph listened, actually listened this time. I'll take it to the family, Ralph said finally, but I'm handling the negotiations with Valentino. You stay put and keep the girl safe. Ralph, that's your job, Marco. Let me do mine. The line went dead. Marco paced the safe house, made coffee, checked the perimeter, waited. Sofia thanked him for getting her toiletries and clothes. It was the first real thing she'd said to him in days. Marco had nodded. You're welcome. Small progress, but progress. Day 4, Ralph called back. The family's on board. I'm reaching out to Valentino's people today. This is going to take time. How much time? As much as it takes. These things don't happen overnight. Ralph paused. You did good, Marco. The plan is solid. Now, let me sell it. Keep me posted. I will. Marco hung up and stared at the phone. This was the hard part. Not being in control, not being in the room, just waiting while Ralph handled everything. He hated it. Day 5, day 6, no word. Marco called Ralph, got voicemail, left a message, waited. Ralph called back on day 6, late at night. Marco stepped outside so Sofia wouldn't hear. Valentino's pushing back, Ralph said without preamble. His voice was tight, frustrated. Says the territory split isn't fair. Says we're asking for too much access to the East Coast. Marco's jaw tightened. We're giving him Vegas, Ralph. That's worth more than... I know what it's worth. But Valentino doesn't see it that way. He wants more. Wants better terms. Wants guarantees we can't give him. So what do we do? I'm working on it, adjusting terms, finding middle ground. Marco's jaw clenched. He wanted to push. Wanted to tell Ralph exactly what to offer, how to frame it, what leverage to use. But that wasn't his place. How long? He asked instead. As long as it takes. Ralph's voice had an edge to it. You need to trust me on this, Marco. I know what I'm doing. I know you do. Do you? Because it sounds like you're about to tell me how to do my job. Marco forced himself to breathe. I'm not. I just... He stopped. This has to work, Ralph. You think I don't know that? Ralph's voice went quiet, controlled. I'm the one in the room with Valentino's people. I'm the one making this happen. Your job is to keep the girl safe and let me handle the rest. Can you do that? Everything in Marco wanted to argue, to demand updates, to be in control. But Ralph was right. This was his job. Marco had to let him do it. "Yeah," Marco said, "I can do that." "Good. I'll call you when I have news." The line went dead. Marco stood in the dark, staring at nothing. He was stuck, completely stuck. The plan was in motion, but he had no control over it. Just had to trust Ralph to pull it off. And trust had never been his strong suit. Day 7. Still nothing from Ralph. Marco called, left another message. Tried not to think about all the ways this could be falling apart while he sat in the desert doing nothing. Day 9. Ralph finally called back, middle of the night again. "We have a deal," Ralph said. His voice was exhausted but satisfied. Valentino agreed. Modified terms, but close enough to what we wanted. Both families are on board. Relief hit Marco so hard he had to sit down, right there in the dirt outside the safe house. "When?" he managed. "Friday. 3 days. Get her to the courthouse, make it legal, and this whole thing is done." "Okay, I can do that." "Marco," Ralph's voice went serious, "you pulled this off. I didn't think you could, but you did. The plan was good, smart, the family knows it. This alliance, it's going to change things, for both sides." Marco's chest felt tight. "Thanks." "Don't thank me yet. Still need to get her to say yes." "I will." "Good. And Marco, after this is done, you and I need to talk about what happens next. You disobeyed a direct order. Alliance or not, that has consequences." "I know." "Friday. Don't screw it up." The line went dead. Marco sat there in the dark, staring at the safe house. Ralph had done it, had negotiated with Valentino's people, had convinced both families, had made the alliance real. Now Marco just had to convince Sofia to marry him. 3 days. By Tuesday of the second week, the silence had become unbearable. Marco sat at the dining table with his laptop and legal documents spread out. The marriage license, the territory agreements Ralph had sent over, everything ready to go. He just needed Sofia to agree. The bedroom door opened. Sofia came out looking tired but more present than she'd been in days. "We need to talk," she said. Marco looked up, nodded, closed the laptop and pushed the papers aside. She sat down across from him. Same spot she'd taken every morning. Poured herself cold coffee, didn't drink it. "What's the plan?" she asked. Marco leaned back in his chair. This was it, the moment everything came down to. "I heard you on the phone last night," Sofia said before he could answer. "You were arguing with someone." "My boss," Marco's jaw tightened, "about the plan I've been working on." "Which is?" He leaned forward slightly. "There's a tradition in our world, an old one. When two families are on the verge of conflict, they can form an alliance through marriage." Sofia's face went pale. She set the mug down carefully. "What?" Marco kept his voice steady, controlled. "If you and I get married, you become part of the Coppola family through me. You're no longer a Valentino they can use as leverage. You're a Coppola wife, untouchable. You can't be serious. It's the only way that works for everyone." He'd practiced this, knew exactly what to say. "Your father won't come after you if you're married into a rival family. It would be seen as your choice, your life. And my boss can't use you as leverage because you'd technically be under Coppola protection." Sofia stared at him. "You want me to marry you?" "I need you to marry me." Marco leaned forward. "Sofia, I've been negotiating this for the past 2 weeks, since I brought you here. Both families have agreed. A marriage alliance is worth more than a hostage situation. It gives everyone what they want: expansion, access, peace, and it keeps you safe. You've been planning this for 2 weeks. I've been trying to find a way to keep you alive for 2 weeks. His voice went rough. This is it, Sofia. This is the only option that doesn't end with you dead or me having to hand you over. The words hung between them, heavy, final. Sofia looked at him. At the exhaustion he couldn't hide anymore. At the documents spread across the table. "You said you've been negotiating this for 2 weeks," she said slowly. "Since you brought me here." "Yeah. God, Marco, you could have told me something. Anything." "And said what?" Frustration bled into his voice. "Hey, Sofia, I just found out you're Dominic Valentino's daughter and my boss wants me to kidnap you. But don't worry, I'm trying to figure out a marriage loophole. You would have run. You would have disappeared again and I wouldn't have been able to protect you." "I don't need your protection," her voice cracked. "Yes, you do, Sofia." Marco's hands fisted. "There's a price on your head. Both families were looking for you. There's no going back to normal from this." Sofia stood, faced him across the table. "So what? I just give up everything? My job, my home, my entire life, and marry you to fix your problem? The only problem I have is refusing to hand you over." She stepped back, turned away. Marco watched her cross to the window, watched her stare out at the empty desert. His chest felt tight. This was it. She was going to say no, she was going to refuse, and then everything he'd negotiated, everything he'd fought for, would fall apart. He stopped. Started again, softer this time. "Whether you believe me or not, I truly care about you and would hate to see anything bad happen to you. So, let's talk about this like mature people and see how we can make this problem go away for both of us." Silence stretched between them. Then Sofia asked, "How would it work?" Relief hit Marco like a wave. She was listening, actually listening. "We get married, courthouse, no ceremony, no guests, just paperwork." He sat back down slowly. "You'd technically be my wife, which puts you under cupola protection. My boss backs off because the alliance is more valuable than a hostage. Your father backs off because interfering with a marriage would be seen as disrespecting the old ways." "And us? What about us?" Sofia turned around. "Do we—" Her hands were shaking. "Do we have to live together? Act married?" "We handle that as we see fit." Marco's jaw was tight. "As long as we are legally married, that's all that matters." She moved back to the table, sat down. "When?" she asked. "Friday, 3 days." 3 days, she closed her eyes. "We need to marry in 3 days. This needs to be done quick before my boss runs out of patience." Sofia looked at him, at the legal documents, at everything he'd been working on for 2 weeks while she'd been locked in a bedroom hating him. "I'm staying in my apartment," she said finally, "my own space. I'll play the part in public, but when it's just us, we're not—" Her voice caught. "We're not a couple. We're not anything." "Okay." The word hit him like a fist to the chest, but he kept his face neutral. Didn't let it show. She looked at him, really looked at him. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll do it." Marco exhaled. The relief was so intense it made him dizzy. She'd said yes, after everything, the lies, the betrayal, the 2 weeks of silence, she'd said yes. "Thank you," he said. "Don't thank me," Sofia stood. "Just don't." She walked past him, back to the bedroom, closed the door. Marco sat there alone, staring at the legal documents spread across the table. They were out of danger. Both families had agreed. The alliance would hold. Sofia would be safe. He'd done it. Now, he just had to figure out how to live with the fact that the woman he loved had agreed to marry him and wanted nothing to do with him. Marco put his head in his hands and allowed himself one moment to feel the weight of it all. Then texted Ralph. She agreed. Friday came too fast. Marco stood by the front door of the safe house in dark jeans and a button-down shirt, black sleeves rolled to his elbows. Not a suit, not formal, just clean, presentable. He pulled out his phone and texted Ralph, "Heading to courthouse now, 2:15 appointment." The response came immediately. "Good. Call me after. We need to talk." Marco stared at that last line. We need to talk. That meant consequences. The conversation they'd been avoiding for 2 weeks. He pocketed his phone. Through the bedroom door, he could hear Sofia moving around, getting ready. The silence between them had been heavy all morning. The door opened. Sofia appeared in a simple navy blue dress. Professional, unremarkable. Her hands smoothed the fabric, then pressed flat against her thighs. She looked terrified. Marco's chest tightened. "You look nice," he said. Sofia didn't respond, just grabbed her purse from the couch and walked past him toward the door. Right, of course. The drive to Phoenix took an hour and a half. Marco drove. Sofia stared out the window. The desert blurred past, scrub brush and rocky soil and heat shimmering off the asphalt. Neither of them spoke. The radio played something low and country, a woman singing about heartbreak and roads that led nowhere. Marco wanted to turn it off but didn't want to draw attention to the silence. This was it. The plan was working. Both families had agreed. In 2 hours, Sofia would be safe, protected, untouchable, and she'd never forgive him. Marco's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Worth it, even if she hated him forever. At least she'd be alive to hate him. Marco pulled into the courthouse parking lot at exactly 2 o'clock. He'd scheduled the appointment for 2:15, enough time to get through security. Not enough time for either of them to back out. Sofia got out of the car without waiting for him. The Phoenix heat hit immediately, dry and relentless. Marco came around to her side, didn't touch her, just stood there. "Ready?" he asked. Sofia's face was pale. "Let's get this over with." They walked across the parking lot together, not holding hands, not touching. Just two people about to sign legal documents that would bind them together for the foreseeable future. The courthouse was cool inside, air-conditioned to the point of being cold. Marco had left his gun in the glove compartment, force of habit, carrying it, but he knew better than to try getting through courthouse security armed. Security waved them through. The clerk's office was on the second floor, room 214. The hallway was empty except for a couple arguing near the water fountain and a maintenance worker mopping. Marco opened the door for Sofia. She walked through without looking at him. The office was small, beige walls, cheap carpeting. A woman in her 50s sat behind the desk, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. 2:15 appointment? Yeah, Marco said. Russo. She typed something into her computer. Perfect. I'll just need to see your IDs and the marriage license. Marco pulled out his wallet, handed over his driver's license. Sofia fumbled with her purse, her fingers shaking slightly as she pulled out hers. The clerk looked at the IDs, at them, at the paperwork Marco had filled out ahead of time. All right, everything looks good. Judge Morrison will be with you in just a moment. You can wait right over there. She gestured to plastic chairs against the wall. Sofia sat. Marco sat beside her, not close, leaving space between them. The clock on the wall ticked, 2:17, 2:18. Marco could feel Sofia's tension from 3 feet away. Could see her hands clenched in her lap. Could hear her breathing, shallow and controlled. "Sofia," he said quietly. She didn't look at him, kept staring at the beige wall. "Let's just get this over with," she said. Her voice was flat, empty. Marco stayed quiet. The silence stretched. The air conditioning hummed. This was what he'd fought for, what he'd negotiated for, what he'd gone rogue for. And it felt like the worst thing he'd ever done. The door opened. Judge Morrison stepped out, tall, graying at the temples, wearing a suit that had seen better days. "Mr. Russo, Dr. Wes, come on in." They stood. Marco could see Sofia's legs shaking slightly. The judge's chambers were even smaller than the waiting room. A desk, 3 chairs, a bookshelf filled with legal volumes. "This won't take long," Judge Morrison said as he settled behind his desk. "I just need to confirm a few things, then we'll do the ceremony. Simple and straightforward." Nothing about this was simple. The judge asked the standard questions. Were they entering this marriage of their own free will? Were they aware this was a legally binding contract? Did they understand their rights and responsibilities? Yes. 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 Marco answered clearly. Sofia's voice sounded like it was coming from somewhere far away. All right then, Judge Morrison stood. Let's proceed. Do you have rings? Marco's stomach dropped. He should have thought of that. Should have. No, he said, we don't. The judge nodded like this wasn't unusual. That's fine. We can proceed without them. Mr. Russo, if you'll stand here. Dr. West, here. They stood facing each other. Sofia looked at him. Her eyes were exhausted, angry, resigned. Marco's chest felt tight. He'd lied to her, taken her from the police station, kept her in a safe house, forced her into this marriage to save her life. And she would never forgive him. Marco Antonio Russo, do you take Sofia Marie West to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. His voice was steady, certain. Even if this was the worst thing he'd ever done, it was also the only thing that would keep her alive. Sofia Marie West, do you take Marco Antonio Russo to be your lawfully wedded husband? Sofia's throat moved, her hands were shaking. I do, she said quietly. Then by the power vested in me by the state of Arizona, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Judge Morrison smiled. You may kiss if you'd like, though it's not required. Marco didn't move, neither did Sofia. They just stood there, 2 feet apart, staring at each other in a government office that smelled like old paper and floor wax. Married. Congratulations, the judge said. He handed Marco a folder. Here's your marriage certificate. It'll be filed with the county by Monday. You're all set. Thank you, Marco said. They signed the paperwork. Sofia's hand shook as she wrote her name, Sofia Marie West. Marco signed his name next to hers, Marco Antonio Russo. And now, legally, she was Sofia Russo. The thought should have felt like victory. It felt like loss. 10 minutes later, they were back in the parking lot. The Phoenix heat pressed down. The sun was bright, blinding. Marco unlocked the car. They got in. He started the engine. The air conditioning kicked on, pushing hot air around the cabin. They sat there in the parking lot of the Maricopa County Courthouse, newly married, and neither of them said a word. Finally, Marco shifted the car into reverse. Where do you want to go? He asked. Sofia stared out the windshield, at the courthouse, at people walking in and out, living their normal lives. My apartment, she said. Take me home. Marco pulled out of the parking lot and headed toward her neighborhood. The drive took 20 minutes. They didn't speak. The radio played. The same country station. A different song about heartbreak. When they pulled up outside her building, Marco put the car in park but didn't turn off the engine. I'll call you, he said. Check in, make sure everything's... Don't. Sofia's voice was sharp. Don't call me. Don't check in. Just leave me alone for a while. Sofia. We're married, on paper. That's what we needed, right? To keep your boss and my dad happy, to keep me safe? She turned to look at him. So we're married, congratulations. But I need space. I need time to figure out what my life looks like now. Marco's jaw was tight. Okay. Sofia got out of the car, grabbed her purse, closed the door. Didn't look back as she walked into her building. Marco sat there, engine running, watching her disappear. His wife, the woman he loved, who wanted nothing to do with him. He pulled out his phone and texted Ralph, "It's done, we're married." The response came immediately. "Good, come to the office, now." Marco stared at the message, time to face the consequences. He shifted into drive and headed toward Tempe. Ralph's office looked the same as always, front between a check-cashing place and a dollar store. Venetian blinds half closed, the smell of coffee and cigarettes. Ralph sat behind his desk, arms crossed. Carmine stood in the corner, silent. "Close the door," Ralph said. Marco did. Sit. Marco sat. Ralph looked at him for a long moment. You disobeyed a direct order. I know. You took the girl, disappeared, went completely off the grid for 2 weeks. You ignored my calls. You forced my hand. Ralph's voice was controlled, dangerous. If you were anyone else, you'd be dead already. You know that, right? Yeah, I know. So why aren't you? Marco met his eyes. Because the marriage alliance works. Because both families got what they wanted. Because we now have expansion into East Coast territory we've been trying to get for a decade. Because I gave you something worth more than killing me for insubordination. Ralph stared at him. You're not wrong. I know. But that doesn't mean there aren't consequences. Ralph leaned forward. The family knows what you did. They know you went rogue. Some of them think I'm weak for not dealing with you. Some think you should be made an example of. Marco's jaw tightened. What do you think? I think you're a pain in my ass who just pulled off something I didn't think was possible. Ralph stood, came around the desk. I also think you put me in an impossible position. You made me look weak, made the family question whether I could control my own people. He stopped in front of Marco. So here's how this goes. What you did, the alliance, the negotiation, the marriage, that's getting you made. The family's already agreed. You've earned it. You brought us something we've been trying to get for years. Relief started to flood Marco's chest, then Ralph's expression hardened. But you still disobeyed a direct order, and I can't let that slide. The family needs to see there are consequences, that I handle my people, that nobody, not even my cousin, gets to disrespect me without paying for it. Marco's stomach dropped. What kind of consequences? Ralph nodded to Carmine. Marco didn't even see the first punch coming. 2 days later. Marco sat on the concrete floor of the holding cell, his back against the wall. Every breath hurt. His ribs were cracked, at least 2, maybe 3. His left eye was swollen shut. His jaw ached. His hands were a mess of split knuckles and bruises. Ralph and Carmine had worked him over for 2 days. Not enough to kill him, not enough to permanently damage him, but enough to make the point crystal clear. The family had their alliance, and Marco had paid for his disobedience. The door opened. Ralph stood there looking down at him. Can you stand? Marco pushed himself up. Slowly, everything hurt. Ralph studied him. Lucia's keeping the kids for another 2 weeks. Told them you're on a job. By the time they come home, the worst of this should be healed. Marco nodded. Didn't trust his voice. You took your punishment, Ralph said. You didn't complain, didn't beg, didn't try to fight back. The family respects that. He stepped aside. Go home, heal. In a month, we'll do the ceremony, you'll be made. Full member, protected status, everything you've earned. Marco limped past him toward the door. Marco. He stopped, turned. Ralph's expression was unreadable. What you did, the alliance, it was smart, ballsy. The family knows it, I know it, but don't ever put me in that position again. Next time there won't be a ceremony waiting on the other side. Understood. Good, now get out of here. Marco drove home carefully. Every bump in the road sent pain through his ribs. His left hand was too swollen to grip the wheel properly, so he used mostly his right. When he pulled into his driveway, he sat there for a moment, staring at his house. Sofia was safe. The alliance held. Both families were happy. He was going to be made. Full member. Everything he'd worked toward for 15 years. And he'd paid for it in blood. Marco got out of the truck slowly, made his way inside. The house was empty, quiet. The kids were still at Lucia's. Wouldn't see him like this. He made it to the couch before his legs gave out. Sat there in the dark, every part of him hurting, and allowed himself one moment to feel it all. The relief, the pain, the cost. He thought about Sofia. Then he closed his eyes and let exhaustion pull him under. This is the end of part 2. Some decisions can't be undone, they can only be carried. This story continues in part 3. If this story stayed with you, you're always welcome to share your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like more stories like this, subscribe to Vailed Pen Stories. Thanks for listening.